Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Bring It Back. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that were canceled and or short-lived that I would like to see get brought back in some shape or form. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the HBO series Westworld. Now, really quickly, if you're unfamiliar with what Westworld is this really interesting sci-fi series where it's in the future where there's this amusement park known as Westworld. Basically, you have these essentially very realistic androids known as hosts, who are basically part of this larger narrative written by this company, Delos, and it's basically like, oh, you can pay this kind of be like your interactive vacation type of situation, and you can kind of do whatever you want to without really any consequences for fun, as well as some of the more debaucherous, nasty stuff that humanity is capable of. Well, little by little, the hosts kind of begin to gain some self-awareness of their own, because it is this situation of that, they become more aware of their reality and question their reality, and it begins this thing of them trying to, what's the word I'm looking for? It's about them basically fighting for their right to be their own people, obviously kind of escaping what the humans want from them, and kind of making decisions for themselves of who they want to be, create their own roles, decide their own destinies of who and what they want to be. And so it ends up being this really interesting, very philosophical question of just do they they were made by man, but they're also kind of like a reflection of man, but they're also their own species. It ends up being this interesting complexity, like I said, it's very interesting philosophical point, brought about through the guise of this obviously science fictional story. It's a really dope show, but obviously sadly we got news, I want to say it dropped maybe Saturday, that HBO has canceled Westworld after 4 seasons, which there's many different feelings and thoughts kind of running through my head. First and foremost, it's a bummer, because if you don't know anything, where season 4 left off, you could definitely see them ending it with one more season. I think even Jonathan Nolan, one of the heads behind it, him and his wife Lisa Joy are the main creators behind this. All they needed was one more season to wrap up the story, and considering where season 4 ended off, no spoilers, it definitely lends itself to that, and that's such a bummer, because you're just why can't HBO just give them that final season? But then you have to kind of get into I don't think it's just one thing. Obviously, it probably doesn't help the whole Warner Brothers Discovery thing. This show just happened to probably be on the chopping block because of that. But I think it's one of many different factors. I'm not saying it's the only factor, but I believe it plays some role in it. The other thing is, I think it's also this show doesn't have the biggest popularity. It's not a Game of Thrones of you're getting millions and millions of viewers. I think the viewership for the show has been declining for a very long time. I don't know, maybe in the beginning, in the first season, the show had that, maybe those gangbuster numbers, but it has slowly but surely, dwindled over the course of the case. And I know that, I don't know how most people felt about the most recent season. I've really enjoyed every season of Game of Thrones, but I don't know if, I'm not gonna say Game of Thrones, it's Westworld, so I don't know how most people felt about it. But I think another contributing, that plays a contributing factor in it, is that, lower viewership, so there's that. Plus, this show isn't a yearly show. This show is a biannual show. It's there's a 2-year gap between every season. So I don't know whether it's just the sake of because the production is so big and what goes into this production, they need those 2 years to fully do roughly 2 years to do everything, or what. But that's been consistent with every season. There's always been 2 years in between. So the next season we would have gotten would have been in the 5th and final season would have been in 2024. And just maybe where Warner Brothers, it's just right, this show doesn't bring back net enough profit for us to put money into, even if it's just a final season. Because the seasons aren't that long to begin with. The first 2 seasons I think are 10 episodes each. The 3rd and 4th season are 8 episodes each. So I was could they really cut back anymore? It's probably no. They probably need a full maybe 8 or 10 episode season to wrap everything up. But it's just a bummer in the back of your mind, because you're all they need is one more season. It just needs one more season. The creator even said, I am pleading for one more season to wrap this up. And HBO made this decision. And it's like I said, I think it's just the show isn't profitable enough, and once again, I think it's because of where Warner Brothers Discovery, like, I'm not saying, like, if this was a, you know, outside of the Warner Brothers Discovery situation, would the show have gotten canceled going into its 5th and final season? I don't know. It still could be a possibility HBO still would have made that same decision. Once again, if you're unaware, HBO is under the Warner Brothers banner. So, once again, I bring it up time and time again that axe has been coming down on a lot of stuff recently. So Westworld just seems like it could potentially be the latest casual. Like I said, I think there's other contributing factors, but I think just the timing, you can't deny the Warner Brothers Discovery thing probably was a major. I won't say major. I think it played some role. I give it as a majority, but I do believe it has some capacity in it, which I think is such a bummer. I don't want it to be a situation where, like, oh, like, the show gets, like, a movie. It's like, no, I don't want it to be in a movie. I want it to get its full, like, time to breathe and tell the story that they want to tell. And I don't know if HBO, to my knowledge, and I could be wrong, like, someone let me know in the comments down below, I don't see HBO being the type to really ever, like, change their mind about stuff like that. It's usually like when they made their decision, and once again, it's HBO, so that's why I'm wondering where else this could go, and if they even Jonathan Nolan or Lisa Joy could even shop this anywhere else. Like, if they were going to shop anywhere else, maybe a Netflix or maybe an Amazon Prime. I feel like those are going to be the best options for a show like Westworld. But I don't even know if that's possible for them. Like, it might be a thing of, like, no, HBO has, like, rights to it. There's no giving that up. So I don't know if they're even in a position to sell the show to somewhere else. I didn't see anything at the time talking about that, but obviously it's still, like, early days, so maybe some information is already out there that I'm just not aware of, or maybe some information has come out subsequently since, you know, I've recorded this video, but it is kind of a bummer to know that. Like I said, it's just frustrating because, you know, like, oh, it's because I thoroughly really enjoyed this show. I got into it fairly late. I didn't start watching the show, like, obviously I binged the first 2 seasons a little before season 3 started, but I thoroughly enjoyed this show, and knowing, like, where the story was, where I really enjoyed where the story was going, and I was so interested to see how they implemented that into season 5, what the end result would be, where these characters' stories would end. It just needs one more season, and so I do hope either HBO changes their mind, or the creator, you know, Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, are able to, like, shop this somewhere else. Like I said, I don't know if that's in their abilities currently, but I do hope, like, I'm fingers crossed hoping, but there's a part of me feel like, nah, this is probably the end of the road, which is such a bummer. So, but really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.